Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jim Jonas with Steve Jonas with another episode of Veterans of Politics. Steve Sansom won't be on the show today. He had his son Josh come into town, and they got to spend some time together, so that was really cool. Josh is a really good guy, and despite what people may think, Steve Sansom is a very good dad, and he spent some much needed time with his son. With that being said, I want to thank Joshua, your last name's Dowden, correct? Mm-hmm. Dowden. He's running for Nevada State Senate, number 8. Previously, you ran for 11, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you go ahead and just give the listeners a bio about yourself, please?
Sure. Joshua Dowden. I'm a 22-year Las Vegas resident, financial advisor, by trade. I'm a single father, sole custody I think after my divorce in 2012. So I raised my kids largely by myself. A staunch Trump Republican. I've been successful at every stage of business that I've been in, and now when I see the country headed in the direction it's in, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and stand up for what I believe in and run for office.
So, Joshua, just a little bit more about yourself, like your upbringing, like what got you to this point in your life where you were a financial advisor? I mean, what led you up to this point? Sure.
So raised in Phoenix. So I was born and raised in Phoenix. Left Phoenix when I was 23. When I was 10, my mother got a job at Dean Witter. And so being in the financial world, I got exposed to that at a very young age. And I just always admired the business and the people that run it and how financial services really help shape the economy. So the older I got, my interest grew, and when the opportunity came along for me to become a financial advisor when I had left my first career at the age of 32, I jumped all over it, and I've been there for 14 years, and it's a great place to be, serving the community. I'm over in Summerlin right now, which is the district that I'm running in Senate District 8. So it's a natural fit for me to run there. But again, serving the community, serving my clients, it's really it's a great impact that I have, and it's a great feeling.
Okay. Well, I guess the first question I have for you then is, so you just defined yourself as a Trump Republican. So I want to elaborate on that a little bit more. Do you find it ironic? Because I do. I'm not. I never really truly was on the Trump train until about 2 years into his administration. Then I started getting more on board. Even as a registered Republican, I wasn't really sold on Donald Trump. Do you find it ironic that for years people have been saying that government needs to be run like a business, and then you get a businessman that starts running the government like a business? Now all of a sudden those same people hated that guy.
Yeah, that's probably a little too timid of a word to be ironic. I mean, these probably more they're hypocrites, Yeah, I think people have screamed for the government to get run like a business. You find a very successful businessman to do just that. The economy was humming along. Greatest economy of my lifetime. I mean, we had unemployment at 50-year lows. There was plenty of economic opportunity out there, yet people still found reasons to be upset with Donald Trump. That was pretty amazing to me. Much like yourself, when Donald Trump first came down the escalator, I wasn't necessarily sold on Donald Trump, the candidate or the president, but through his candidacy, and it, certainly before and right, his first year as president, loved what he'd done with reducing regulations, lowering taxes, being extremely business friendly, creating opportunities, which I think that is a president's primary focus, is to make sure that there's enough opportunity for everybody that's out there, and Donald Trump did that. So that is why I call myself a Trump Republican, is opportunities for everybody, that's out there, no discrimination, at all, running government like a business. I think that in his second term, he would have absolutely continued that and would have continued along the lines of reducing regulations, lowering taxes, and creating opportunity. Like I say, his first 3 years pre-pandemic, I think, speak for themselves. It was fantastic.
Okay. Well, before I'm going to ask one more question about Trump, and then we need to get to state issues because you're running for state assembly, or state senate, sorry. But I tend to get caught up on national issues sometimes. So in your world as a financial advisor, what did it do for you guys in your world when Trump finally started holding China's feet to the fire, started addressing NAFTA? Did that help the business community?
Well, I don't think that there was any downside to that. So initially you heard a lot of, tariffs don't work. You heard a lot of that in the beginning.
Right.
But I think the proof is in the pudding. I think the economy got strengthened. Donald Trump really put the wood to China and was saying that you're not going to steal our intellectual property. You're not going to dilute the products that you're selling to the United States. You're not going to continue with the practices that you have, and that just helped the labor market. It helped the trade market. It helped everything. And like I say, I'd heard a lot that tariffs don't work and sanctions don't work and blah blah blah. That's not true. Everything helped at that point. Conversely, Joe Biden being soft on China, now we're going to see slower economic growth. We're going to see, and I'm not rooting for that, by the way. I mean, I'm rooting for Joe Biden to succeed. I mean, that's just idiocy not to. I just see the policies that he's going to enact and that he favors, and these are very much Obama-like policies. And the proof was there too. We saw sub 2% growth on GDP, oftentimes 1.5 or 1 3/4, and that's just terrible. I mean, the Trump presidency, we saw 2.5, 3% GDP growth when the economy was already doing well.
Yeah, it's horrible when the administration starts bragging about 16 cents. I mean, that's when you're grasping at straws, man. I still can't believe their handlers and all that just let that get out.
Well, I don't really know what to say about this particular administration, the things that they brag about and that they let out. So, I mean, they can speak for themselves, really. Yeah. Just listen to them.
And to be fair to President Biden, and I want to thank you, Joshua, for bringing that up, because Veterans in Politics is a nonpartisan organization. So sometimes I get myself in some trouble because I tend to, obviously, as a registered Republican, I lean that way. But here's the thing I want to thank you for the most is because we're polling for Biden. Mm-hmm. Even if he's a Democrat, we're polling for him because we always want the country to succeed. I can't say the same thing about the other side.
At the end of the day, we are Americans first. And to actively root against the people that are making the decisions and that are influencing, the country is idiocy. That has got to be the dumbest thing ever. That's like rooting for your airline pilot to crash. That is stupid. I mean, who does that? I wish the Biden administration all the success in the world. I hope that all of their policies succeed. I hope that the country is more prosperous than when he leaves than when he took over. I just have my doubts. I mean, I think that the policies that he wants to enact are largely restrictive. Some would say even along the lines of Marxist. And so I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. That's why I got into politics. Is that I see that the ideals that people have about how to make policy, they've really lost their way. I mean, I struggle to think that any Democrat owns or runs a business or has run anything. Because if they do, how do they favor the policies that they have? That they espouse. And even that, oftentimes you can even tell too when many of the prominent Democrats will have rules in place and then break their own rules. And it's like, oh, I see, you want us to follow your rules, but you don't want to follow those, Nancy Pelosi, Lori Lightfoot. I mean, jeez.
Yeah. So So let's get to the state of Nevada. So can you give the viewers and listeners just a brief? I know gerrymandering it's tough, but the boundaries of State Senate 8.
Well, as they presently sit, we are about, and again, this is going to be a very generalization, so it's not going to be exact here, Russell to about, it's not quite Lake Mead, Alta. Russell to Alta, really the canyon, basically, Red Rock Canyon, all the way over to, I want to say Decatur. There's going to be a lot of nuance there because they draw lines kind of ridiculous. But that's how it sits now. We'll see how it sits after they redraw the lines.
So have you done any research, because you ran for the state senate before, you ran in 11. Did you reside in 11 at the time? Like, I'm curious of why you're running in 8 now and previously 11.
Sure, that's a fair question. So I've lived in Las Vegas for 22 years. I've lived in several parts of the Valley. At the time that I ran in 11, I lived in Chinatown. So right in Spring Valley. Chinatown's a great place to live, by the way. It's great food, great entertainment. I love that place. But I needed to be a little closer to my office, which is over in Summerlin. So moving over to Summerlin just makes more sense to me, and so that's where I reside.
Okay. So your main reason for running, I mean, I hear countless times from the Republican Party, turn Nevada red again. I honestly, as a Republican, I just roll my eyes because I've been hearing this since '06. I'm not seeing it happen. Who's the incumbent in 8?
Marilyn Dondero Loop.
Okay. So what's your strategy to defeat her?
So I'm glad you bring that up, and I'm going to preface that answer by saying that running at the local level is paramount for the Republican Party. It's incredibly important that we change the foundation of how we run for office, the candidates that we support, and that making sure that when we are elected, we fulfill our campaign promises. Making Nevada red, to me, means strengthening the lower levels of government at the state level, at the city level, the county level, to make sure that we are serving the people. And when we do that, and when we fulfill our campaign promises, we'll continue to get elected.
So Joshua, have you ran for anything other than Nevada State Senate?
No, that's the first time I've run for office.
I guess my question then would be, if you're concerned about local politics, why run for state senate?
Sure, and I get that question, from time to time too. I feel like I can make the biggest impact at state senate. It's a little bit broader area that I'd be representing. There are fewer state senators than there are assembly people, and I haven't thrown out the idea of running for the assembly. I just feel like the Senate is a better fit for me, and you can make a bigger impact.
Well, I'm not even talking so much about the assembly. It's more like I honestly believe city council or a county commission are the most important. I'm not saying that what you're running for isn't important. I'm just saying if you're going to talk about actual, getting real local.
Sure. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that all levels of government are important. Every one of them has an important role that we play, and we need to support the people that want to hold those positions. We need to support them and hold them accountable for the campaign promises that they make. So it is important that we do hold these levels of government, that we do again fulfill our campaign promises, and that we support these folks. I have decided that my role was as a state senator. I want to support the county commissioners. I want to support the regions. I want to support the assembly. I want to support all levels of government, and I want to work well with them. Again, I have just decided that I wanted my role, that Senate was a more natural fit for me.
Okay. Steve?
So with with the state senate being a little bit bigger and being a Republican, can you foresee something that might not be textbook Republican policy, but it adversely affects the area that you're representing. Could you imagine yourself listening to an opposing point of view that isn't necessarily Republican, but fits with the demographic or the people in that area? Would you be willing to adapt a policy that maybe Republicans might not actually like?
So I'm always willing to listen. If a constituent or really anybody that has an informed opinion wants to speak to me on an issue, I'm always willing to listen, to that. I don't believe that I need to be right. I want to get it right. So in order to get it right, I need to understand why people think differently than me. So I encourage discussion. I encourage people to tell me why they disagree with my stance. And at the end of that, if they've made a solid case and I believe them, I'm willing to move. So to get to the heart of your question, would I support a policy or a stance that may be less Republican than what maybe the base would support? I'm an American, I'm a Nevadan, I'm a Las Vegan, and I want to do what's best for our community. So if a policy or something that I have supported in the past is not the best way forward, then I want to know that.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I think the issue, me personally, this is just 100% my personal opinion, is that when people do get into that position, there's two things that happen. One, it's not just the campaign promises they made, it's the loyalty to the party, which is good, which is fine. You don't want someone saying, rhinos and all that stuff, but getting there and not being able to mature in that role, sure. And not in a way that you're brought in, and he brings this up in our conversations all the time, that as soon as you're elected, especially like the president, after the inauguration, they get brought in the room. It's like, okay, well, campaign's over, here you go. This is right. What you actually do as president. Right. And I think that's obviously going to happen at the state level. AOC has spoken about how after her her second day, she was brought into an office and told how she was supposed to behave. So even she exposed that, like, the left does it, sure. Right's going to do it a little bit. So it's just, personally, I want to always try to ask people that are running for those positions that it's like, okay, so you are capable of maturing, not necessarily changing or flip-flopping, sure. But maturing.
Well, flip-flopping is such a ridiculous term. I mean, we change our minds. You change your mind as you mature, as your experiences change, as the information changes. People that are unwilling to change their mind as the information changes, they're just too stubborn, when it comes to that. So it's funny, I'm glad you bring up AOC. That's a classic example of somebody who actually doesn't stand for anything, and she doesn't really know what it is that she believes in. So she is easily, misdirected into her ridiculous stances, because she really has no idea what her policy positions, what the unintended consequences of these things are. So she can change her mind as the wind blows, and it doesn't really matter, to this woman. And she's not convicted in what it is that she believes in. So I wanted to add that I have the added benefit of the policy positions that I espouse are the right ones, so it's easy for me to say that, yeah, I will, you're gonna have to change my mind because I know the positions that I hold, are right. But if there is a circumstance what I've overlooked or that I misjudged, I'm absolutely, or the world has changed, I'm willing to listen to a different viewpoint. But it's a little easier to be true to your convictions when your positions are right, when they're the best ones.
And you actually have them.
Well, Joshua, here's another thing that talking to so many state senators. I ran for the assembly moons ago, and just talking to these people, it's interesting. One of the things that has always really truly frustrated me about the Republicans that we do have in the assembly or in the state senate is, I'm not going to use the term rhino, but they seem to be willing to cave a lot faster than the Democrats. And for me, I don't want somebody elected to an office that's absolutely like, I'm only going to follow the Republican talking points. But at the same time, what I do want to see in a legislator is like, okay, fine, I'm willing to listen, but here's my red line or blue line, whatever you want to call it. And we're not going to discuss past this. I'm willing to work with you on this 80%, but this 20% I'm not giving on. And if you look at the last two biggest tax increases in the state of Nevada, both those governors were Republican.
Right. I'm a small government, low tax guy. I do not see how that's going to change. Again, I'm not closed-minded. If somebody's got a stance that they feel like they can change my mind when it comes to raising taxes or bigger government, I'd be willing to listen. But you better make a pretty good case when it comes to that. Okay. When it comes to quote-unquote rhinos in government. Working with the other side, I think, is important. Working with Democrats is important to get legislation passed. But what we've run across over the last 10, 15 years or so is the left has moved so far to the left that we keep conceding ground, we keep moving forward, we keep, okay, this is where we should be and this is great. They keep moving so far away, and by doing that, they're claiming we're moving to the right when we're not. We are not. The easiest case in point is that Bill Clinton was for stronger borders. I mean, if JFK were alive today, he'd be a Republican right now. So the positions of the Democrat Party of years past, we have adapted. They were good policies. We're like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. We should probably do that. They're unwilling to do that. They go so far to the left right now that they are quite literally in Marxist territory, and they're saying, oh, you guys are fascist because you won't come along with us. I mean, imagine the idiocy it takes to believe that.
Yeah, I just smiled because I've made that analogy. I made that analogy, or like not analogy, but like I started seeing that. I was working at that one place about 2010, and it was something I called at the time, this is how long, Oberman-Bachman problem, where you got Oberman on the left and you got Bachman on the right, and that they both would only see it from their point of view. So Oberman was pretty leftist, obviously, but she thought he was bad. Crazy because she could only see it from there instead of actually bringing it and having a starting point and understanding how the spectrum might actually work and how it correlates to each other.
Sure, so. Even somebody that is far left, if they're willing to talk to me in a civil manner and explain their position, I'm going to listen. Yeah. As long as they're willing to do the same. Oftentimes they're not. They just want to talk at me, and when it comes to be, my turn to, explain my position, they don't want to hear anything about it, and that just doesn't make for a healthy dialogue, whatsoever. But we live in America, and one of the main tenets of being an American is your freedom of speech, your freedom of ideas, and so regardless of how garbage your idea is, I mean, you should have it if that's how you feel, and if you need me to listen to that, then that's fine. We can have a conversation. Just be respectful of my opinions too.
So Joshua, when you get elected, like what are like I'm always skeptical. Please don't go over 5 policy positions sure. Because I honestly that's my threshold. Anybody that gets me more than 5. There's no way it can be done. It's BS.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, you can't have a strong opinion on everything. I mean, if you do, then you probably don't have a strong opinion on anything. Right. So my policy positions are going to be, well, first and foremost, we need to make sure that our elections are fair. So election integrity is going to be very important. We need to make sure that we have the proper tools in place to make sure that everybody that legally wants to vote has the opportunity to vote, because that is important. But I think that's the important part there is to make sure that everybody who is legal to vote, that wants to vote, has the opportunity to vote. So election integrity is important. Here in Nevada, education is a top priority. I mean, we are 49th in the nation. That is embarrassing. I sat there and I listened to the 2018 legislative updates, and I listened to a couple of the Democrat senators, and they should have just been ashamed of themselves when they were talking about how long it takes to implement change in the educational system. These kids don't have that kind of time. I mean, you want me to wait, a decade to change things? I mean, they're going to be long out of school at that point, and be contributing members of society. And now I guess we can change things for the next generation. That is garbage. We need to change things immediately on day one to do that. So didn't want to go too far overboard with that. But education is a top priority. And even if you don't have children, even if you don't have grandchildren, it's still important to you. These are our future leaders. These are the people that are going to, these are going to be our future business owners. They're going to be our future employees. These are the future. These are the people that will be taking care of us as we get older. So it's important that we give our children and everybody else's children here in Nevada and across the United States the best opportunity to succeed. So education is going to be one of my top platforms because, well, one, Nevada is just so awful with it. And secondly, it's just public education right now is just pretty garbage, anyways. There's a lot that we need to do. There's a lot of opportunity there. We need to make sure that Nevada is tax and business friendly. Reducing regulations, not raising taxes on our mining industry or any other industry. We need to encourage growth here within the state. We love our service workers. We love our community, our casino workers. We love all of those people, but we need to diversify our economy a bit more. Nevada was disproportionately hit when it comes to the COVID shutdowns because we have a tremendous amount of service workers, a tremendous amount of service employees. So at one point we were leading the nation in unemployment. I don't know, I haven't checked the numbers here recently, and it was because of that. So if we can encourage more job growth, if we can encourage more business ownership opportunities here, or moving businesses here. When Elon Musk said, I was thinking about moving to Nevada or Texas, we should have had every state representative on the phone saying, Elon, hey, move your operations here. I mean, yeah, we would love an opportunity for that, but that was certainly a missed opportunity there. So keeping Nevada tax and business friendly is incredibly important for job growth, for wage growth, for a stronger economy, and then lastly, healthcare. So a real easy way that we can increase our health care for not just our seniors, but for everybody. And obviously here in Las Vegas, we have a growing senior population. It's a great destination to retire to. Is competition. So if you have price transparency when you are shopping for a hip replacement or anything really, you sprain your ankle or you need some dental work done, whatever it is, if there's price transparency that you have and you know what it is that you're paying for when you go in, you can make better decisions on where you want to go, the level of health care that you have. And when you do that, the business world has proven that you get better pricing when you have to compete. I mean, when you don't know what it is that you're paying for,
right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, then they can charge $25 for a pill of Tylenol. And that's just ridiculous. So just to kind of recap there, because I know that kind of went a little bit long. Education, business, low taxes, business friendly, healthcare, and of course election integrity.
Yeah. Well, no, you didn't go long at all. Actually, you summed it up pretty quick. There's only a couple things that stuck out. So healthcare, obviously, I agree. But however, like when you talk about competition, that's fine, but as of right now, federally, it's regulated by the states. So you can't purchase insurance from another state.
Yeah, I was talking more about the consumer position. When people talk about healthcare, they like to talk about making sure everybody is covered. And that is important to make sure everybody's covered. Right. I am not for single payer, and I can get into that another time, but at the state level, I don't really have a lot of control over that. Right. But what I was talking about more is that when they have to compete on pricing when you actually go to the hospital, when you go to the urgent care, when you go to your doctor's office, because do you know what you pay that outside of your copay? You don't know what it is you're paying for. Doctors can charge different amounts depending on what they're contracted for, and if you don't have health insurance, then they can charge you a different amount there as well. When you go to shop for tires or a sink or whatever, they have to compete on price with everybody, and the healthcare community should have to do the same thing. And at the state level, we will have control over that. We do have control over that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that always cracks me up too about when I talk to people. They're like, well, I get one bill from the hospital,
right,
but then I got like 6 other bills, and like the anesthesiologist, gives them a bill, and then this doctor and this doctor and this doctor, and before they know it, they got 10 bills.
Right.
Like, to me, I mean, I get them being contractors and all that stuff to a point, but it's like you said, like, if I go buy 4 tires, there it is.
There's
the
your price.
You know, and I pay it, I'm good.
Right.
You know, when I don't have bills coming in all over the place.
It's like, oh yeah, you have to pay for your tires, and when you get out there, then you can pay for the installation, and then when you get out there, then you can pay for the air, and when you get out there, it's like, no, yeah, I don't want to do all that. Just what am I paying? What am I paying right here? And can you spell it out in black and white? You know, and then you can look at, why does that one pill of Tylenol cost me $25? When, you know, I can buy a whole truck of Tylenol for $25.
Right.
So I mean, when you look at those things, and these things are so clearly overpriced, then they have to compete on price. Look, I think every doctor and anesthesiologist and everybody should get the money that they deserve. So I'm certainly not advocating that. But if they have to compete on you know, pricing, if they have to defend, you know, why they deserve that much money, like a lawyer, you know, does, oh, I charge $300 an hour, and here's why I'm worth that. Then all right, then you as a consumer can then decide, do I want to pay for this doctor or go shop around?
One other thing on education. So I could have this wrong, but I'm drawing back from months ago when I was doing an interview with somebody about education. And they said one of the reasons why Nevada ranks so low in education is, number one, because we don't fund all-day kindergarten. So the federal government dings us with that. And then we don't have more than 1% of our high school graduates that reside in the state of Nevada with at least a bachelor's degree. So we get dinged again on that. So they were like, actually, we're about 38th if those two things weren't brought into consideration. Now, the reason why I bring this up, Joshua, the reason why I bring it up is because the person who I was interviewing was basically trying to get more money for education.
Right. Trying to get more money for education.
Right, exactly. So my whole thing was, and they brought up Massachusetts, how much more money they spend on public education. Do you know the last guesstimate that I got was about 60%, maybe a little higher, of our state budget is actually going to education?
It's 2/3.
Right.
2/3 of the state budget.
Yeah, so
goes to
about
education.
66%.
$6.5 billion.
But they still want more money, though.
They always want more money. So
Well, everybody does.
don't you want more money? I want more money too. When you go to look under the hood as to where this money is going, try to get a straight answer. Yeah, right. That's like damn near impossible, if not impossible. I mean, I'm not joking when I say I think it would probably take an act of Congress to get under the hood and find out where all of the expenses are going. Yeah. So right away, you need to find out, where is this? Where can we trim the fat? Where can we redirect the funds? I mean, when you run a business and you have a budget, you're like, well, hey, if I spend X amount of dollars over here, that's where I'm going to get the most impact for the dollars that I spend. And if I reinvest over here, then over the next several years, I'll get a bigger impact over there. Well, if you don't know what that looks like in education, then how do you know where to spend the money? So to kind of address your earlier point, I think that when you get into the weeds like that, you can really not see the forest for the trees when you're like, well, this number and that number and blah, blah, blah. When you look at the big picture right there, what is wrong with Nevada or Las Vegas education? You can look right at CCSD. We are the 5th largest school district in the nation. Do you know where Nevada or Las Vegas ranks as far as population and city? We're like 50th.
Yeah.
But we have the 5th largest school district. Why is that? Because the CCSD has way too much power, way too much control, and they won't give it up. So when you go to the teachers union and say, what do you need? And I've asked them this. Yeah. What do you need to be more successful? There's only one answer they give. We need more money. We need more money. We need more money. We all need more money. Okay, well, what are you going to do with it? Well, we just need more, they say. I mean, we don't, we're $6,000 per student is so low. Okay. But what are you going to do with it? There. So you may or may not be familiar with the funding formula in Nevada. There's this.
Actually, I don't. And I'm actually kind of glad I don't.
Yeah, you really don't want to. I'm gonna break it down to the simplest of terms that I can.
I'm already getting nauseous. So yeah.
Well, you're gonna love this, but it's a lot more convoluted than this. But the way that it works is there's this term called supplanting. What is supplanting, Joshua? Yeah, it's whatever they want it to mean, right? So what happens, what this basically means is you have this $6.5 billion, bucket, right? Oh, we need more money. We need more marijuana money going in here, or we need more, federal money going in here. Well, supplanting means there's a hole at the bottom of the bucket, and they can take that out and they can redirect those funds to where? I don't know. But the bucket never goes over $6.5 billion. So one of the questions that I get to is like, well, where'd the marijuana money go? Well, first off, marijuana money is $60 million. The budget's $6.5 billion. I mean, that's not really going to make a big impact. I know they sold us on the idea of that, and that's fine. The money does go there. That's fine too. But the problem with that is it doesn't matter how much money you put in. When you supplant that money out the bottom, that's what they call it, supplanting, more like theft really. When you take the money out of the bottom, then it doesn't go.
Social Security.
It doesn't go where it needs to go. And then where did that money go? It went here, it went there, it went to go the general fund, it went there. It's, oh my goodness. Why can't it be more transparent? When you are a publicly traded company, something that I have a lot of familiarity with.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, you have to on your earnings report how much money you made, where that money got spent. You have to do that so that people will invest more money into your company. Well, education is an investment, and so when we want to invest more money into education, well, where did it go? Where are you doing with that money? And they can't answer these questions, which should be pretty basic. And I think that's my biggest problem with education. Before we even tackle the curriculum, before we even tackle teachers, pay and quality of teachers, which all of those things are important, by the way. But none of it gets solved unless we know how we're spending the money and where we should be spending the money.
So, Joshua, ironically enough, your name is Joshua. A good friend of mine that I went to high school with. He works for, he's actually an office manager and a CPA. And I was talking to him about why the CCSD fights a forensic audit so bad. And he goes, well, part of it is if they're always complaining about money, and by the way, none of his kids go to public school. They all go to private school. He said they're just going to throw cost at you.
Sure.
And he goes, and the cost for a forensic audit in a bureaucracy that entrenched would cost an awful lot of money. I'm like, well, what about if I could raise it? Now, I wouldn't fund it myself, obviously, but I know a lot of people that have been wanting to do this for years.
Sure.
And they're like, we'll pay for it. And he goes, yeah, good luck. They'll never go for it.
They block it at every turn. Yeah. They don't want you to know where the money's going. Right. And then you're the asshole for bringing it up. You should just trust them because they know what they're doing. Have you ever been a teacher, they say? Do you know what it's like to be a teacher? I'm like, well, I know what it's like to be a parent. Right. I know what it's like to be a parent of a kid, and I know what it's like to be a student. I've done both of those things. Right. And not only that, I know how to run a business too. So right. I think I'd have a pretty good idea of how to run where the financials go in a school district.
Right.
But yeah, they love throwing that card. Well, if you've never been a teacher, then you don't get a say. Well, that's bullshit. I mean, that is just complete bullshit right there. I'll even go further to say that if you are a teacher and a Democrat, you are actively voting against your best interest. How is that possible, Joshua? You've been voting for Democrat policies for how long? When was the last time you got raises? When was the last time that anything substantial changed within the school district? Yet you keep voting for the same nonsense, the same garbage.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, we were talking about her earlier, but I won't bring her name up on air because it's about you and your candidacy. She brought out a chart to me. And if you see how much money has been spent on education in this state since 1976, and from 76 on, it's been all majority Democrat run.
So,
and how much money keeps going away from the classroom to the administration?
It's obvious when you look at it like that, and I am endorsed by Katie Williams as well as.
She's a good friend of mine. I just didn't want to take away from you.
And well, no, I appreciate that because Katie is such a polarizing figure. She's done a lot for education already, and she's going to continue to do that. Katie's a great person, so being associated with her, I'm very proud to do that. I'm also endorsed by Danielle Ford. She's on the school board trustees as well, and I just admire those ladies to no end. I think they're both doing a fantastic job there. So I actually talk to the school board of trustees. I actually go to the school board meetings. I actually go talk to Superintendent Jara. I'm not just over here saying, oh, education is garbage and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm actually involved in these things. I talk to Danielle Ford. I talk to Katie Williams. They tell me what some of the issues are there, and as a legislator, how I can help affect the most change.
Cool. Well, time's running kind of out. I mean, what else do you want to talk about? I mean, it's your race. I mean, do you have a political advisor or somebody helping you with your campaign? Or?
So I do. Thanks for bringing all that up. So the campaign or the election season is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So we're
Seems
trying
like
to.
It never ends anymore, right?
We're trying to garner as much support as we can. So you can go to my website at dowden4nevada.com. It's DOWDEN, the number 4nevada.com, and we would appreciate all your support. Financial support is fantastic. If you want to volunteer your time, that's fantastic as well. If you would like to endorse the campaign, we take all endorsements also. So anything that you can do to help support freedom-loving Nevadans, that's what we're interested in. That's the tenet of our campaign. I've hired the McShane Group to be my consultants, and I'm very proud of that. They do a fantastic job over there.
I'm aware of them.
So they're great folks. They do, like I say, they're fantastic. So I'm very happy with that. Yeah. But I mean, like I say, the campaign season is really right around the corner. Like, to your point, it really never ends. I mean, this is our lives, this is our community, this is our future, this is everything that we're talking about. So it really, quite frankly, should never end. And we should always be thinking about this. But you can get a little, political, fatigue, right. When it comes to that. But like I say, please go to the website, donate if you can, leave a story. Anything that you can do, volunteer some time. If you love freedom, if you love Nevada, that's what this campaign stands for.
Well, Joshua, one of the things that, I'm sorry I didn't get to this earlier. It's not a question, it's just a statement. One of the things that I really want to tell you, besides the fact of thank you very much for coming on the show on a Saturday, and sorry about the AC. We'll have that fixed Monday. It's just hot. But also just, you've already ran for office once, and now you're running again. And like people that have never run for office, I have, and I still haven't ran again. Don't understand how time consuming it is. Like you really, truly have to have a passion for it in order to do it. And it takes a lot of time. Out of your personal time, like it's a very stressful thing to do. And then, like, if you don't mind me saying, you're a very successful person. So you don't need the money. You're doing it because you care about the state.
Right. So when this opportunity came around, my kids had just gone off to college, so I had some more time. I mean, I am a single dad, but I was everything. I was their sole provider within the house. So they took up a lot of time. When the kids went off to college, I found myself kind of an empty nester, so to speak. So now I had the time and the resources to be able to run for office. Running for elected office is just like starting a business. You have to start at the ground level. You have to find your customers, which are your constituents. You have to get your name out there so that people understand what you stand for. So and building all of that is just like when I started my business as a financial advisor. You have to build it from the ground up. The longer that you do it, the more people see and understand what you stand for, and the more support that you get. But you are right. It's not something I need to do. I make a very good living. And I do have a career to where I can take some time away from that to run my part-time job, which is politics now, which, by the way, you don't get into it for the money because it doesn't pay shit.
Well, unless, never mind. I'll leave that for another day. I'll leave that for another day. I just think it's ironic that Trump loses money as president and everybody else is rich. I don't know.
There's a real irony to politics, and especially when it comes to fundraising, is that you have to raise all of this money that you don't get to spend, that you don't get any of that money. So, you call, you have donors, you do, fundraisers and stuff, and you're like, I raise, however much money you raise, and you're like, what are you gonna do with that? Billboards and ads and consultants, and there's a real irony to that.
All right, Joshua, I want to thank you very much for coming on, and Steve, I want to thank you for sitting in as well. Just one more time, Joshua, just in case anybody, because, me with my big mouth, I probably drowned you out. If you can just look into the camera one more time and just give everybody your point of contact, why they should vote for you and your website again.
Sure. So first off, I want to thank Veterans in Politics for having me on. This is fantastic. I am a staunch supporter of our servicemen and women. We would not be the great nation that we are without our servicemen and women. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your service. To every veteran, to everybody that's ever served, everybody that is serving, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. We would not be the nation we are without you. My name is Joshua Dowden. I'm running for Senate District 8 in Summerlin. You can visit my website at dowdenfornevada.com. That's DOWDEN, the number 4, Nevada.com. And I would love your support. I'm a freedom-loving Nevadan. I'm a 22-year Las Vegas resident, single father of 2, and I'm passionate about Nevada, about Las Vegas, about creating a better community, better education, better opportunities for everybody. I would love your support, and I would love your vote.
Well, thank you very much. That's Joshua Dowden. He's running for Nevada State Senate, number 8, for Jim Jonas and Steve Jonas. Sorry. And Steve Sanson. Sorry. And Steve Sanson. We want to thank you guys very much for tuning in. Until next week.